Hey everybody, it's Bill Slocum, and in this short little video I'm going to talk about creating a web app and using some templates in the Web AppBuilder from ArcGIS Online. But before we get started, a little housekeeping. Neither the National Park Service nor NC State University endorses or recommends any commercial product, processes, or services. This material may not be used for advertising or product endorsement purposes. This material is intended for educational purposes only. Neither the U.S. government nor NC State University warrants or assumes any legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, completeness, or usefulness of any information, apparatus, product, or process disclosed. Okay, creating a web app within ArcGIS Online. It's fairly simple to do, but you always have to remember, just like when you create a map, it always has to have a purpose. You have to define your functionality within your web app, and you also need to make this thing aesthetically pleasing. Make it yours. Make it something that the park and the folks that you're going to share it with will like and enjoy. And when you create a web app, you're going to decide what the user may do. You're going to define the functionality, and I'll show that here in just a moment. It all starts with a web map. So in other video, I talk about how to make a web map, and I also talk about how to customize your pop-ups and how to customize your map display. So take the time to create a nice web map, again, that has a purpose to it and that is aesthetically pleasing with your web map. Configure those pop-ups, do your layer list. Once you have that, you can create your web app. Now there's different ways to create web apps or different types of web apps that you can create in ArcGIS Online. We're going to focus on the configurable apps and the Web AppBuilder. Another very popular application are the story maps and dashboards, but I'm only going to cover these first two, configurable apps and the Web AppBuilder. So just remember how to get to the National Park Service ArcGIS Online for Organizations website, https://nps.maps.arcgis.com, and log in with your PIV card as you normally would with other National Park Service applications. So let's get started. You can see here that I have logged in to the National Park Service ArcGIS Online website here, and I've logged in. My credentials are up here, and I'm going to go to my content. And remember that I keep my data in folders. I've got my how-to video folders here, and I've already created a base map. Now this is something that I'm going to provide to the park or to use as a template to make other base maps. But I'm going to use this to create a web app. I'm going to make two web apps out of it. I've started to make it a favorite, but let's go ahead and go to the item details page of my web map. And you can see on the right here, I have a create web app drop down, and here are the different types of apps I mentioned that you could create. Let's start with a configurable app. All of these different application builders here are fairly easy to use, but there are a lot of different settings that you can that you have a choice to set. So for this, I'm just going to use the basic viewer. You can see here that Esri's also got a basic viewer retired and the classic viewer retired. They still have them up here. They're rapidly changing this, so keep in mind. You can also see that there are several pages of different configurable apps that you can work with. Take the time to go through these. They all have different purposes, and you need to understand, again, what functionality you want to provide. I'm going to just focus on this basic viewer here, and I'm going to say create the web app. Now, I'm going to just give this a title here. And just call it configurable app. And I'm going to give it the same summary. You should be a little more verbose. And give it some tags in there. And you can assign it a category. Remember, we have all these categories that we have here with the Park Service. And I'm going to save it in my folder and say done. Now, what's going to happen is it's going to start thinking about it, and it's going to bring up another interface that's going to allow me to configure my web mapping application. Okay, so you can see here that at the very top, After it's loaded my map, I have a configuration pane on the left-hand side and what my application will look like on the right-hand side. Now remember, I did set up my pop-ups and everything, so you can see that my interpretive sign has some useful meanings, and so do my kilometer parkway markers, as well as with my boundary for my park provided by Land Resources Division. Now, since I started with this, it's already selected this map, but I could select another map. Again, you have several different options that you should explore and take the time to work with. This is very important here, the alternative map text. I'm going to fill that in because this is going to help with screen readers and for 508 compliance. This is a base map of the park. And I could say colonial. Let's just say colonial. There we go. Okay. Now I don't have to save it. It's probably saving itself as we speak. But now I can go to the theme tab. And this is where you're going to be able to put in a logo if you would like, and your logo would show up within your interface here. And you could put a web link to that if you have something that you would like to link to, just a different logo. Make it your own. Explore that. You have other choices of a layout here. I'm going to stick with the default, and you can also change the color and of the buttons and the header and the panel background and things of that nature. So you should explore those. What's going to be aesthetically pleasing? Do you need to adhere to the branding of the National Park Service? Those are items that you have to decide when you're creating your web mapping application. I also have some other options here. Now I'm going to provide the user, I'm not going to allow the user to change the base map, so I'm going to turn that off. But I do want them to have a legend and a measure tool. I also want them to have a layer list. So there's all different types of configurations. I'm not going to allow them to print. It's all what I want the user to be able to do, but most of the time people like to print. But I'm just going to turn that off for right now. And you'll see that when I save this, my options will change up here. Let's go ahead and save it. Save early, save often. And it's going to go through and start saving those configurations. And you can see now that my menu bar or my toolbar up here has actually changed to reflect what I would like the user to be able to do. And I can simply click on these and be able to explore what those tools are going to look like. Now, if I also want people to search, I can allow them to search. If you would like to search by the geolocating service, you could have that. Or if you would like them to search individual layers, you can enable that. For this, I just want people to view my data or view my map. I'm going to save it again. And then you can launch it and see what it looks like when you open the map or when you open the web application. And you can see here that now I have a new interface, and this is the application itself. And the controls are only what I allow the user to see and use. But my pop-ups have maintained, and so has my symbology. So that's how you can create a basic viewer web application using the configurable template. I'm just going to close this because I'm done with that. And I'm going to now go back to my content, and you'll see that that web app right here is now in my content, and it is associated with the web map. So if this web map changes, my configurable app will change. Let's take a look at the Web App Builder. I'm going to create an app using the Web App Builder. And here I'll just say Web App version 2, because I've already got one in my content. And I want to be able to tell them apart. So I'm going to put in a summary. I could add a category, and I want to save it in my folder. And if I wanted to have extra tags, I could have extra tags here. I could say web app. And I have it a tag as a web app as well. And say OK. So again, it's going to go through and it's going to start to launch the builder. Now this, you have a lot more functionality that you can decide on. I talked about your toolbar with the configurable app. Well, those little tools are called widgets, and a widget is something that has a predefined functionality associated with it. And when you use the Web App Builder, you're going to actually use these widgets. And you can see that I have placeholders here, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But first, you want to choose your theme, and you have different styles that you can choose from and different layouts down here. So explore those. I'm just going to go with this foldable theme. You could use the billboard theme if that's what you would like. In fact, why don't we just choose that? That way all our tools are located up here. Now I'm going to go to the map, and again, it starts with the map. I've already chosen to use a web map, but if I wanted to choose a different one, I could. But this is going to be a web app based on my base map. All righty. So I'm just going to go to the widget command. Now you'll see that some of these widgets are already available. If I click on the home, you can see that the home widget up here will turn red, and I can hide that if I choose to. I can also disable the search if I don't want individuals to search. If I wanted people to be able to search this data, I could again go to the search tab. Now you can see that it is a lot more, there are a lot more configurations that you have to go through, so you're going to have to explore those. I'm going to turn the search off because this is just focused on my park, and I'm just wanting to allow people to view it using this more customized viewer. Now, here are the widgets. You'll see these widgets here down at the bottom, these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and those are associated up here. So if I click on widget 1, I'm going to choose the About widget and take time to look at all of these different widgets that you have access to. There's a print widget down here. There's a measure widget. Okay, but I'm just going to go to the About widget and say OK. And now I can actually change the title about this application. And I'm going to come in and get rid of all this Esri stuff and just say that this is a base map of Colonial for NPS use only, and say OK. And now what you'll see is I have an About widget. And here is all the information that I put in there. Now I want you to please notice that you can use your skill set, and you can put different items in here and different colors and indentations and size and font. So take the time to work with that. Now, there's this, I'm going to save it, save early, save often. And what's really nice about this is Esri has provided a lot of commonly used mobile devices, so you can see what your data is going to look like, or what your application is going to look like on a mobile device. They don't have all of them here, but these are some of the more commonly used devices. I'm going to go back to configure, and it's already saved. I know what it looks like, and so let's launch this application. And you'll see it's going to open up in a new browser, and the application is going to load just as it would like a configurable template. And now I have my application. Again, I have restricted what the user can do. All the user is allowed to do is to click on points, and they can pan and zoom, as you can see, and get the about information. So I have provided a very, very basic application using the Web App Builder. Let's go back to the content here. It's all saved. I made sure of that. Okay, and we're just going to go back to content. Here we go. And now you can see that my Web App Builder web mapping application is now here within my content. And again, the map in that web app is associated with my web map. So if my web map changes, my web application will change as well. Okay, thanks a lot. And remember, it all starts with your web map when you create a web app. Thanks a lot, and I hope you have a wonderful day.